What's up, Browns fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Dawgs podcast. Josh and myself in studio. Justin coming to us virtually. He's on dad duty tonight, so he couldn't leave the kids at home. They would burn the place down.
They still might. Sure.
Yes, they still might, even with him down in his man cave.
Just make sure you just sniff it out, Justin. You smell a little smoke. You got to
always leave the door cracked.
It's officially mock draft season.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, last week we had a week of joy and hope, and that's what the Browns do to you.
Yeah.
They give you just this sliver of hope. You know, they tell like people who have prisoners and like who torture people for a living, they say you don't just tell them you give them a little bit of hope. And that little bit of hope is like the most torture. The Browns got the memo.
Holy crap.
They just give you
dark connection.
Instead of just killing us quickly, they give you that little bit of hope to keep you coming back, and then they squash it. But then they're like, then there's just that little sliver again, and it's just what keeps you going, and it's a long, brutal, painful death.
So to keep with the dark, I wasn't going to say any of this, but with the dark theme, I did see some, I forget who it was, posted on Twitter. They said the Browns coming back to Cleveland back in 99 was like the real life version of Pet Cemetery. Like, you thought you were going to revive the animals, but what was the quote? Some things are just better left dead.
Yeah. Yes, we should have left them buried.
What we brought back was an abomination is what it said.
But we got a not fun episode to get into, but we're going to give you all of our thoughts on the game. I'm having some audio issues in my ear, so whatever, we're just going to roll with it.
You can't hear?
No, I lost it in one of my earpieces. So, but F it, we'll do it live. I bet you we get through this better than they got through the game yesterday.
I guarantee it. Yep.
Before we get into the episode, I do, obviously not a fun day yesterday, but the weekend as a whole, I want to give a big shout out to the Berea Browns backers in Grindstone Tap House. We were invited up to their Browns backers bash. Saturday night, there was a band. They were doing giveaways. We talked to some of the fans. We talked to a running back from Baldwin Wallace. Kenny Mack was there. And then the coolest part about this was not only did they invite us up and let's be a part of their party, we kind of use it as like an unofficial meeting place for a dog pack get together. So a lot of these people that are in here with the emojis who are YouTube members, they're also dog pack members in the Discord and the Patreon. And some of these guys I've talked to almost every day for years now. And I'd never met them face to face. I've met a couple of them, but some of these guys I'd never met. And this weekend I got to meet 10 or 11 or so of these, and then some of their wives and their girlfriends. Just an awesome time. Like the highlight of the weekend was 100% getting to meet a bunch of these guys who are in this chat and who are in the Discord and who play fantasy football with us and have supported the show for some of these guys for 4 years now, going on 5 years once we get into this off season. So I want to give a big shout out to everybody I got to meet. It was definitely the highlight of the weekend. If you can see down in front of our desk, one of our Discord members, his girlfriend does these paintings. She's a crazy good artist. She actually did a couple pictures for us. It's us in the studio. We even got John Nye in one of them. And then the other one's the updated one with the helmet who speaks more than John. So just the community we've built in the dog pack, in the Discord, it's definitely the coolest thing we've done with this podcast. And I know normally I do the dog pack stuff at the end, but if, hanging out with a bunch of Browns fans that from all over the world that you've only talked to online for a couple of years, and then you get to meet and get to be all emotional and get to see people that, have a lot of the same interests and stuff as you, even outside of the Browns. I mean, so cool. She's been working on some of these paintings for the better part of a year.
Yeah.
And she's not even the fan of the show. I mean, maybe she listens, that'd be cool. But her boyfriend's the one who's always like talking to us, and he helps run our Discord now and all that stuff. And she did this for us. Like I was touched that she would do something like this for us. So, just if you're interested in that kind of thing and you want to get to know all these great people, not just, myself, Josh, and Justin, it's jointhedawgs.com to become an official dog pack member. It's an awesome time. Guys like Kenny Mack are in there all the time. It's It's super fun. It's the coolest thing we've done. It's better than anything the Browns have done for us the last couple of years. So I just wanted to give a big shout out to everybody in the Dog Pack. And then I wanted to give a big shout out to the Browns backers and the Grindstone Tap House for letting us be a part of that and kind of using it as an unofficial meetup spot. Now back to your regularly scheduled program. And just in case you were wondering why the painted versions of ourselves were down there, we're going to get a more permanent spot for them once we have more time to plan. But for now, they'll be down. They're going to live down in their little home.
On the real quick, before we go to the negative crap, I did want to mention the salute to service yesterday. Like me, Justin, we were up at the game, a bunch of people here in the chat. I thought the halftime show, the U.S. Army rock band or whatever they were called, holy crap, did they put on a great show. That thing was awesome. If you guys, like, if you weren't there, if you haven't seen anything, I did post a clip on Twitter. So just go to the Dawgs Podcast, find us on Twitter, and you'll see the quick clip of the girls singing and them playing the guitar. Like, that was a really good show. It was a good time. It was a good like ceremony and salute to service day for the everybody there.
Yep. So then they played a game, unfortunately. But I want to get back into the show. We got a lot of negative to talk about. We got some voicemails to get to today. If you want to be one of these people who gets your voicemails on the show, head to thedogspodcast.com, tap leave voicemail in the drop-down menu. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Make sure you tap the notification bell so you don't miss any of the content we're putting out. I know the Browns season's done, but the Dawgs podcast season is in full effect. We're going to be here all the way through the Super Bowl and into the offseason. So please don't give up on us. You can give up on the Browns. Don't give up on us. And it sucks I have to give this speech this early in the season. But we appreciate you guys watching. So don't leave us all. These episodes get real boring if we don't have anybody in the chat to keep us company. If you prefer to just listen to the show, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, and Google. And if you want to find us on any of the social media platforms, just search at the Dawgs Podcast. I already talked about the Discord. Again, that is jointhedawgs.com if you're interested. It's a great time, so make sure if you guys are interested, go check it out. So the game this week, like I said, it's mock draft season. Thank God we have the Cavs. I don't know. I put this on X. I don't know if I've ever seen the drop off of a roster from one season to the next like this. The only consolation I have in this a little bit is we're not the only dumpster fire that had expectations.
No, yeah. A lot of the games yesterday really drove that point home.
And honestly, at least in the national media, I know in Browns fandom that we had expectations to be good, but pretty much everybody nationally was picking us to finish last in the division. Mm-hmm. So to the national people, they shouldn't be surprised by this, but you got teams like, I think the Jets had hopes of making a run at their division. The Cowboys for sure were supposed to be better than what they are. The Jaguars.
The Niners aren't playing up to what they expected so far.
So we're not the only dumpster fire, but obviously this is the one that means the most to us and hurts the most. But I've never seen a drop off like this. I don't think somebody said, you remember 2008, which was the year that we missed the playoffs going 10-6. And we were one of the hot Super Bowl picks the next year. And I think we won 3 games with Romeo Crennel. That's about the only thing I can compare this to. Every other year was Stefanski. If we were great, we were not great, but if we were good one year, the next year we struggled. It was a Baker injury. It was having to deal with, using Jacoby for 11 games, and then Deshaun having, 6 games of rust or whatever it was. So there's at least been maybe some expectation that you weren't going to live up to what you did the year before, or at least in the season, something catastrophic happened that let you know that it wasn't going to go well. To just come into this season with your quarterback was supposed to be as healthy as he'd been in a couple years. He was in all the offseason workouts, revamped offense, all this stuff. And then to just be this bad all across the board. The defense is about the only thing worth 2 shits on this football team. And I know they had some bad moments yesterday, but for the last 3 weeks, they've been pretty darn good. And for all of about 3 plays, they were stellar again in this game.
Kenny Mack in the chat said Denzel looked lost. Hey, Kenny, we went and looked back at like the stats and everything from yesterday. It was the one play. Denzel gave up the 66-yard touchdown to Quentin Johnston, total blown coverage, wide open down the sideline. Other than that, he was charged with giving up 1 reception for 1 yard the whole game.
Yeah, I know we're going to just kind of start diving into this stuff, I guess. But the defense was great outside of essentially 3 plays. I think, Justin, what was the stat you told me?
So Justin Herbert threw for 250 of his 282 yards in the first half.
Yeah, 32 yards in the second half. And
Correct.
obviously, they were up. They're going to run the ball more and all that stuff, but not right out the gate. And what's even crazier is if you look at that breakdown a little more, he had 130 some passing yards on 3 plays.
Yes.
So almost half, almost 50% of his yards were on 2 mental communication breakdowns in the secondary, and then just a fluky lateral play before the half. That was almost all of their offense.
Which you can't even really, I mean, I know it counts in the stats for Justin Herbert, but like you can't really even count that as like a pass, because it was a pass, then it was just hook and ladder a whole bunch of times down the field. So really, I mean, he had 2 big plays and it was the 2 touchdown passes. Other than that, it didn't do a whole heck of a lot. He opened the game with like a 15-yard strike to Ladd McConkey. And then there was a couple other like minor chunks here and there, but for the most part, I think we did a pretty good job defensively. We sacked him 6 times.
Yeah, like I don't want to take anything away from the Chargers. They were opportunistic and they capitalized when we made mistakes. They scored 27 points, most points I think they scored all year, and definitely above their average. Was it the most they scored all year?
Yeah. Oh yeah, we just gave up 27. That they've scored 26 twice, and that's the highest they were before this.
So, but their offense was kind of who we thought they were. Outside, if we don't have 2 mental breakdowns in the secondary, especially Ward being a part of them, they don't score 27 points. They're lucky to get to 20.
Yeah.
Now that's plenty to be us, but
Right.
So the defense played great. Like you said, we pressured him. If you just would have looked at the numbers, you would have thought, oh, the Browns, this was at least a close game. Pressured him a ton, 6 sacks. I mean, I just don't, the offense, the regression. Yeah. I mean, the regression of Jameis Winston from last week to this week. And I know he could have threw a bunch of picks last week, but he still also made a lot of really good throws last week. Like he could have been 334 for 3 touchdowns and 3 picks last week. I get that. But he wasn't, because they dropped him. But he still would have had a shit ton of yards passing last week, even if he threw the picks. This week, I don't know what happened. I don't know if guys weren't open. On NFL Plus, the All 22 is not up yet, so I haven't got to watch any of it. But at least on a couple of the TV replays, it looked like he had guys open, at least on some of them. I don't know about on a consistent basis, so I don't want to come in here and say there were guys running around open all day. But I think you put in the notes he was sacked. How many times? 6. And
6.
Only 2 of them were attributed to offensive line. The rest,
according to PFF, the other 4 were on him. So here's some Jameis Winston. If you want to talk about last week to this week, it's been crazy. So this week he had 56 dropbacks in the game. This is not what I expected when I went and looked at the stats. 40 of those, he was kept clean. He had a clean pocket in 40 of his 56 dropbacks. He was 23 for 38, 227 yards, and all 3 picks came from that clean pocket. None of the picks came when he was under pressure. He was only pressured on 16 of those 56 dropbacks. They only blitzed him 8 times the whole game.
He looked like he had no idea where to go with the ball. So I don't know if there was just nobody open, but what killed us is we couldn't run the ball at all. Right. So then they just sat in their too high safety look, and we did nothing to get them out of their base defense, like their bread and butter.
Yes. And
they just did they even kept talking about it on the TV broadcast. The Chargers defense from the first play to the last play, they almost did nothing different. It was like they ran the same defensive play all 60 plays or whatever it was. And there was nothing we could do to force them to change it up.
So I was looking and I'm like, hey, why did it look so different last week? One thing I found was last week we ran play action pass 30% of the time. This week, 9%.
It almost felt like last week. I know Ken Dorsey called plays last week, but did it not feel more Kevinish last week?
Yes.
And then we got another week into the Ken Dorsey era, and all of a sudden there was nothing of what we did well last week.
Yep.
Like that, I don't know if people were open or not, but we didn't run the ball great against the Ravens either, but we were committed to it more. and it made the defense obvious. The Ravens defense, that's my biggest takeaway from this game, is how bad is the Ravens defense?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I said at halftime. I was watching this game, and I'm watching us struggle to get inches. And all I could think was, man, the Ravens defense has to be pitiful if this offense had the game they did last week.
Yeah. You're not wrong, man.
Because the Chargers did whatever they wanted to us. We looked so flat in the lack of discipline. We just talked about last week how Kevin being that CEO role, things felt more crisp and we looked more ready. And then this week we get a big first down and it's a legal procedure penalty because Jerry Jeudy goes in motion and he takes 4 steps towards the line of scrimmage before, like that. All that's just focus. That's lack of focus. That's an unforced error that took away a first down. And I'm pretty sure we went on to punt. And I don't know what to do about that other than, I mean, if I'm in high school, you just don't play him or you make him run until I'm tired of watching him run, you know, but I don't know what to do. I don't know how you handle that in the NFL other than just start reverting to some old school discipline tactics, chewing their asses out, screaming, yelling. Like, I don't know what you have to do because that is just inexcusable. Every wide receiver from Pee Wee football to the professional level knows you can't, this isn't Canadian football. You can't move towards the line of scrimmage in your motion. And when they called the penalty, I was like, how ticky-tacky is this going to be? And then they showed the replay. It was not ticky-tacky. It almost looked like he went in motion and he came back and he was going back up to the line like he thought he needed to be on the line.
Yeah, I remember that play. You're right. That is how it looked. And like live.
Yes, like he didn't know, like he was confused about what he was supposed to do. And then if he's confused, why are we confused?
We've been confused all season. That's been my biggest thing.
The season's halfway done. Yeah. How does he not know what he's supposed to be doing? So it's either a lack of focus or he doesn't know, like, oh, I'm going in motion. Then do I need to get back on the line? Do I need to be on the line or off the line? Well, newsflash, if you started off the line, and if nobody else moved, you probably don't need to get back on the line.
That's right.
Because you were never on it to begin with. So, but if he doesn't know what to do and people are this confused, what are we doing? The season's halfway done.
Yeah, it's bad. Justin, what are you thinking, buddy?
No, just to touch on what you're talking about, and at 2-7, how much interest are you really going to get from the guys? You know what I mean? Some of them are probably. I'm not in the locker room, but I'm guessing there's guys that are already trying to figure out what they're trying to do at the end of the year. You know what I mean? I know they're professionals and and all that, but like this is heading towards about as a rebuild as it can get. You know what I mean? I was optimistic after last week, and I was like, hey, that was a nice win. And then you come in this week, and it was almost like we just used all the last juice up. It's a tough weekend. You got Jimmy Donovan and everything going on. Maybe that was just a one last, hey, we're playing the Ravens. Let's punch them in the mouth. Let's go get a W. But it looked very, very, very dysfunctional on Sunday.
Well, no, what really pisses me off about this is, even at 2 wins, the season was still alive in terms of having a chance. If all we needed to do was win and the Vikings win, and we would have been in a wild card spot. And obviously you got to win a lot more games than 3 to secure it, but you're in the driver's seat at least. Like, you have a shot and you control your destiny because you play the Dolphins and you play the Bengals down the stretch.
Yep.
And you come out, and this was essentially a playoff game, and they laid an egg. They looked completely not ready to play. And what is even more irritating is the Vikings won.
Yeah, and the Bills beat the Dolphins.
And the Bills beat the Dolphins. All you had to, if you just win this game, you're in the driver's seat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. I was putting all the the stuff for the graphics together with the scores and everything. I'm like, it was right there. Everything we needed to happen to give us that boost this week to put us in a nice spot going into the bye with the Saints on the other side. We just like we didn't even care.
It's the story of the season so far in terms of just missed opportunities. We played all these teams early in the year that should have been the games that you at least looked better in and should have won some of them. I'm not, again, there's no cakewalks in the NFL, but there are games at the beginning of the year that there's no doubt the easy part of our schedule is done. If we don't get a win against the Saints coming out of the bye, I'm saying it right now. The Browns will not win another game this year. There's no games. I look at that schedule. We can't score on anybody not named Baltimore. Okay, we have the Saints who are playing like they're playing as bad as we are.
They just fired their head coach today.
They just fired their coach. That's how bad they're playing. Then it is Steelers, Broncos, Steelers, Chiefs. I'm not lying. We might score 12 points combined in those 4 games. I don't know if we'll get yards against the Steelers and the Chiefs. And the Broncos defense is pretty darn good too.
They're good.
Okay. Yeah. The next team we play with a bad defense is the Bengals. And by that point, our season's going to be so far gone. Who knows who will even be playing? And it's at the Bengals. And if they string together some wins, maybe they're still in the hunt for the wild card. Since, the AFC's so down, they're going to have stuff to play for. Our season's going to be done because it already is. I will not pick us to win any more games if we don't get a win against the Saints. This is going to be a 2-15 year.
Trey in the chat says, I'm going to the Dolphins game. So Blake, can you just have a little hope that they can beat another 2-7 team?
If Tua is still playing, I would not pick us to win. If Tua is hurt again by then, maybe we have a shot to win that game.
That would probably be the only one left on the schedule that I think, just because it's going to be what we project to be cold weather in Cleveland.
Yeah, in Cleveland.
That's where I think maybe we're able to squeak out some sort of, hey.
They have a little experience. They go up to Buffalo, though, and they play Buffalo tough up there. So it's not like wrong. That they're completely...
And New England.
Yeah. So it's not like they've never been in a cold weather game before.
Oh, no.
But it's definitely an advantage not to have to play them in 100-degree heat.
Yeah.
With all their speed. Mm-hmm. I know we have some voicemails. We want to get to one of them before we just get too far into this thing.
Yep. Here's Kenny Mac.
Yo, guys, it is Kenny Mac, and we are heading past Watertown, almost home. What a great first Dawgs podcast weekend that we had, man. The Cavs were fun. Meeting you guys were fun. The Browns backers bash was fun. We had a great time, except for one thing, the Cleveland Browns, man. I kind of can see them having that letdown. I thought overall, aside from our tailgate, because somebody was passing around out-of-town loggers, bourbon shots. Other than that, I thought it was kind of tame. I think people did know what to expect out of the Browns. I think more people were starting to believe as the day went on that maybe this might be kind of a fluky thing, beating the Ravens. And I just thought the overall energy was low. We've been saying it in the Discord today. There wasn't many people at the actual game. Lots of empty seats. And the Browns didn't disappoint. The guys didn't show up because they kind of did what they were doing the past couple games. So, but what I mean by that is just not efficient, blocky, energy wasn't there, whole-hum effort on offense especially. Defense did the best they could without their linebackers, but man, 2 big blow-ups in the secondary. I don't want to bitch anymore, guys. Had fun with you. Let's go, Browns.
Kenny still sounds a little sauced up.
Yeah, I tell you what.
I might still be a little sauced up, bro.
It was it came at you fast, but he's not wrong. When I was planning to go to the game and everything, a couple of weeks ago, I was told my wife, I don't even want to go to this game anymore. The team sucks. It's going to be November. It's going to be cold. It was supposed to rain all day. It was going to be a bad day. And then we win last week. There's all the hope. And then I'm checking the forecast through the week, and that rain all of a sudden magically goes away. It's sunny, 65. It was beautiful in Cleveland yesterday. It was awesome. And he's right. The energy was low, empty seats everywhere. By the end of the third quarter, that place was, what do you think, Justin, 30% full?
Yeah.
We hit the escalators going down from the 500 section, and the mass exodus going back up the ramp, to the parking lots and stuff was like, oh my gosh, it looks like the game just ended. But there's still another 15 minutes to play. Going
to the game, we're talking about going to the game. I barely bring myself to watch the game at home. It's almost not worth the argument anymore. I quit watching this week and started doing dishes. I was like, well, maybe I can at least get some brownie points. So I'm not going to watch this. This is garbage. I could have went to this game. There's been a couple other games I could have went to. It's not freaking worth it. I'm not spending my money, my time, my energy, my effort to go up there and sit in the stadium and watch this. It's awful. It's not even, there's been one game this year that's been enjoyable to watch. It's not like we're losing in Eric Mangini's second year where we might only won 2 games, but at least we were kind of fun to watch.
Yeah.
No, we're pitiful to watch. There's nothing redeeming about this team. Guys we like are playing poorly. Nobody looks engaged. It's just, it's so bad on so many levels. The special teams, what happened to the special teams? And we look terrible on special teams all year. We can't return a punt. There were a couple punts yesterday where I was like, oh man, he's about to break this. We might get a 20, 30 yard and he gets 1 yard or loses 3 yards. Like, where are you going? I don't understand what we're doing. And a lot of, so your special teams players, typically, they're not your starters. Your starting offense and defense typically aren't playing your special teams. So if you have bad special teams, sometimes then that tells me your depth isn't as good as what you thought it was, because the players you're putting out there aren't as good. So that's why there's gaping holes, and because they're not good. They're not good.
Yeah.
And so I don't think our depth is as good as what we thought it was going to be. I don't know what to do with this team. I think we're going to see at least 1 or 2 people traded this week. I think DTR is probably going to end up playing the rest of the year. I would be shocked if he's not playing coming out of the bye.
Yeah, I mean, and just to kind of go back real quick about the special teams, stuff you're talking about. I mean, we're sitting there watching, and the beginning of the game didn't start out too badly, and then we punt after I think our first drive, and our special teams gives up a huge return. They get all the way down into field goal range, down around like their own 30, and then we give up a play here and there, and then we sack them. There's a penalty or whatever, and it's like, oh, cool, we're going to stop these guys. It's like 3rd down and long or whatever. Okay, maybe we can hold them to a field goal. And then wide open, blown coverage, 28-yard touchdown, back of the end zone. It's like, okay, well, then that all started with the big punt return that we gave up.
What really sucks is this is the first year since we've done this podcast that we've had to talk about a team that's like a straight dumpster fire.
Yeah. Make no mistake, we talked about it for plenty of years before the podcast.
Yes, but the first year we did the show was Kevin's first year, the COVID year, bounced back, made the playoffs, beat the Steelers in Pittsburgh. Like, that was a fun year to do it. And then the next year we had the Baker injury, and even then we still won 6 or 7 games, even with the Baker injury. 6 or I can't remember. Do we go? I don't remember, but it was still like. But we were still at least competitive.
Yeah, it was still fun to watch.
We won 6 games. And then the next year with Jacoby, he gave us some moments. Week 1, the long field goal against Carolina. And then obviously last year, like a magical season. It is so hard to do this. Like, I hope you people watching are just so appreciative. We appreciate you guys being here watching me, because not only are you watching the garbage product on the field, then you're coming here and listening to us talk about it. So, but no, it's tough to do. It's getting to the point where now I don't even care about the games. I'm more focused now on who we trading, who we freeing up, who we looking to get. Somebody in here said, do whatever you have to do to get Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward's very good. I think in terms of, it depends on who our coach is going to be. I think whoever our coach is going to be will dictate the quarterback that we would go after. Because if Stefanski's still our coach and Dorsey's not here, I think a guy like Shedeur is who you would go after, because yes, he can run around and make plays, but he's a pocket passer, accurate. He's dealt with no run game, bad offensive line play. Like, he's kind of tailor-made, I feel like, for what Kevin wants to do. If we move on and we're going to go to somebody maybe more modern offense, then maybe Cam Ward is the guy you want to go after. The only positive I take away from the Browns after this week offensively is that Cedric Tillman had another good game.
Yes.
Outside the drop.
Yeah, outside that dropped. I think we talked about that. We did the fantasy podcast before this, and we were talking like he should have had 2 touchdowns because he dropped one in the end zone. I mean, put it right on him. He was going to get hit. So I think he was just kind of worried about getting hit right there. But Kyle went with me to the game, and I was like, dude, he got popped either way. might as well try to hold on to that thing. But
it's easy for me to say from my couch.
It's very true.
You're going to get hit anyways. Catch the ball, pussy, as I'm sitting there eating chips off my chest.
But the thing with Tillman is since Amari Cooper left in the 3 games since then, he has run 90% route share, 24% target share, and 35% air yard share. I mean, he's the clear, in my opinion, undisputed wide receiver 1 on the offense. Like, he's the guy they go to. He's the one they're trying to force feed targets to. I mean, he is leapfrog Jerry Jeudy in the pecking order.
Oh, for sure. He looks like our best wide receiver.
Yep.
We have more. You want to play another voicemail?
I can do that. Let's here. I'll just play them both here because Stacy's is quick, and then I'll do Brad.
If Jameis Winston getting 3 touchdowns and over 300 yards last week to now getting 3 interceptions this week isn't the most Browns thing I've ever heard, then I don't know what is. Go Browns.
I thought this was funny because Andrew left a super chat earlier, said like Jameis is good for 4 every week, either 3 touchdowns and a pick, or in this case, one pick or a touchdown and 3 picks. So
it was
very Jameis.
Yes,
very Jameis game.
Yeah, it was.
I'm excited for. I'm ready for the all 22 to come out so I can watch it and see what was going on because he looked like he had no idea where to go with the ball. He just sitting there patting the ball, and just nothing. One time he looked like he could have ran for the first down. And instead, he throws back across his body and almost threw a pick.
Yeah,
he could have had another one.
Everybody was screaming like, "Just
run it,
just take it."
There was nobody there. I didn't know what he was doing. Aaron, it's good to see you can be in here this week. Where were you last week?
Hi, Aaron.
He missed that one.
Yeah, you lose all credibility when you only show up when your team wins. But and I wouldn't be too happy if I were you. Your Ravens are going nowhere in the playoffs if this offense did that to your defense, you're nothing.
Oh, especially the nemesis, right? The Chiefs, dude, that defense. And then with Patrick Mahomes and whatever weapons they got, they'll pass all over the Ravens.
Yes, everybody will. Apparently, I could pass all over the Ravens because this is the worst offense I've ever seen. We lit them up. They couldn't stop us. So
now I will say this real quick to go back because you were just talking about Jameis looking lost and patting the ball and stuff. Not that I'm saying Deshaun Watson played horrible all season, but it did kind of make me go back and think, well, maybe he wasn't as bad as he looked because. Here's Jameis coming out here after last week looking the same way. Looking like he doesn't know where to go.
Nope.
I'm not saying
he still threw for 200.
We gotta move forward, guys. We gotta move forward.
No, this is not an advocation to go back to. I'm just saying like maybe there's more to the offense being total trash because I mean the numbers are terrible. Like we rank pretty much dead last in every offensive category. Like
I get
this is more of I'm sitting around all day going. Why is Ken Dorsey not gone yet?
Also, I think we need to put some like a little bit of respect on the Chargers. You know what I mean? Like
their defense is we kind of
really, really good.
We talked about their defense as being very good statistically coming into this game, but they hadn't played any really high flying offenses. So it was like, which one was more fool's gold, their defense or our offense? I think we found out in resounding fashion that it was our offense. Their defense seems pretty legit. We had some people in our Twitter mentions and on YouTube saying, like even Mahomes and somebody else who had talked about like they couldn't believe how good the Chargers defense was, even when they played them, even if they won. Like that's a very good defense, and they were like, it's clear you guys didn't watch a lot of the Chargers. Well, yeah, no duh. They don't. Turns out on my local Cleveland network, they don't play a lot of Chargers games, so I didn't get to watch. All I could go is I could look and see who they played. I can look and see some of the numbers. I know that's not, and just kind of go based off of that. And so I'm pretty sure we talked about it. It was we never said they were going to be a pushover. We just said they haven't played any high flying offenses. Are we for real on offense, or are we going to revert back to what we were? And we said we don't think their offense is going to be great, and I think they'll struggle to score. And outside of 2 fluke plays, we were pretty much spot on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So. Do we have one more voicemail?
Yes.
Good morning, Browns fans. It's Brad Moneymaker. Wow, I am hungover from this team being back to its old terrible self. Here we go again. Woof woof. I don't know much to say. Jameis liked to throw it to the other team. Myles Garrett looked really good. defense was doing okay until they like to blow wide open coverages, just leave guys wide the fuck open. Yeah, we'll see who gets traded. I think some people are getting traded after that loss, and going in the bye week, you could maybe even see some people fired. Who knows at this point? Well, guys, as always, look for the show. It was great seeing you all this weekend. A lot of fun. Just wish it was a Browns win. Oh well. Here we go, Browns. Woof woof.
Yeah, hanging out with Brad Moneymaker in person was awesome. All of you guys, it was awesome.
So before we get into talking about like firings and trades, because I feel like that's the kind of direction it's going to go. One thing about the defense that is a little bit telling to me, and about just kind of where we are as a team. So J.K. Dobbins averaged 6.1 yards a carry. He had 14 carries for 85 yards yesterday. We talked about it at length on the live show from the Tap House. Outside of his first 2 games this year where he went off, he had 2.9 yards a carry, 2.3 yards a carry, 3.8 yards a carry, 2.9 yards a carry, and 3.4 yards a carry. He had not been gashing people the last 5 weeks. He was living off of 131 rushing yards in week 2 against the Panthers and 135 rushing yards in week 1 against the Raiders. So you had to think coming into this game, playing a defense that had just shut out Saquon and shut down Derrick Henry, like they were going to struggle to run the ball against us if we're as good as what we think we are. No. He averaged 6.1 yards a carry and had 2 touchdowns, and he had his fourth highest output of the season. But he did it on even significantly less carries. So he had 135 in week 1, 131 in week 2, and then his third highest game was 96 against Denver, but he did it on 25 carries. He almost eclipsed that in 11 less carries this game against us. So when you just start kind of looking at next level things, it's like, well, the Browns are who we thought they were. They gave us some false hope for a week. We thought maybe we were going to right the ship. No, we're a 2-win football team, and I think we're going to be lucky to become a 3-win football team.
I agree. I know exactly where you're going, man. I think losing JOK and Jordan Hicks too is a big reason why that number is elevated. You know what I mean? But I'm 100% with you. And as far as like trades and all that stuff goes, I think the next 24 hours is going to be kind of telling of what the Browns are going to do. And you read reports, there's stuff out there about the Lions and Zadarius Smith, and I think he could be just the first of many guys that we're going to head into that.
No, so I guess we can kind of talk about obviously Zadarius Smith to the Lions. Everybody's saying like I'm hearing that's basically done.
What's the poll say? So I did a poll for the show. Who's most likely to get traded? I did not put Zadarius Smith in there because that's pretty much a lock to happen tomorrow. So it was Myles Garrett, David Njoku, Greg Newsome, or other. Leave a comment. 29% said other. I didn't see a whole lot of comments, but I might have missed them on who you thought they were. But Greg Newsome's leading that poll at 51%.
What's crazy is Greg Newsome might be playing our best corner outside of Myles Garrett. What happened to Martin Emerson?
Dude, he's having a rough season.
Major regression.
Yes.
So I read an article today on ESPN Plus from Bill Barnwell about the what's going wrong with like the most disappointing teams. It was us and I think the Jets and the Cowboys, and I forget what the other team was. And he was talking about our defense, and he said the defense really isn't playing that much worse than they were last year outside of one very important category. They're not forcing any turnovers.
Yeah, none.
Last year we feasted on teams, especially the last 5 games of the year. We forced like 8 turnovers in the last 5 games or something like that. We haven't hardly forced any turnovers this year, especially after Myles hurt his shoulder last year against Denver. There was a significant drop-off in our defense in terms of EPA and stuff like that, but we still forced a ton of turnovers, and we were still ultra aggressive, and we scored with our defense. He said you can't necessarily expect to do that, and having a drop-off like this year isn't unheard of. He's talking a little bit about the last few teams to lead the league in interceptions one year, and then on more than one occasion the next year they're at the bottom of that kind of statistic. You just can't bank on that kind of stuff. You get balls bounced one way and another way, and it's reigning for more of your games. Like that's just not something you're probably consistently going to do every single year. So the defense outside of that isn't playing that much worse than they were the last 8 games. We're just not forcing any turnovers.
Well, and one thing too, like we're not scoring on offense. Last year,
yeah.
like we would score on offense, so the defense had that luxury of, like the pin your ears back mentality that go get them, and teams were kind of playing catch up. Not this year, man. We're the ones playing catch up. We go 3 and out all the freaking time.
Yeah, we're going to break the record for 3 and outs in the season.
How rough is it? This is like another week of Myles Garrett has like a huge game, like 3 sacks, and it's completely irrelevant. You know what I mean? Like that's how crazy things are right now.
And they were great sacks, and it's like they put it behind the sticks so far, and then they would come right back and get a big play and get the first down.
Yeah. Yep.
When I'm thinking about guys who are getting traded, we see somebody down here said, do we think Denzel Ward's on the trade block? Part of me wants to say I don't know if I don't think it's going to be a total fire sale, but man, based on what we've watched for every game except for one this year, why wouldn't everybody be for sale outside of maybe a Myles Garrett? The biggest names I've heard are Zadarius Smith. I heard some David Njoku rumors to the Commanders. Man, I would be heartbroken if Njoku got traded. He's definitely one of my favorite Browns players.
Yeah.
And the biggest takeaway for me in this regard is it almost feels like an end of an era. Like we had this window of, Miles and Chief and Ward and Chubb. And like we had like this window where it looked like as an organization, we were turning the corner and we were fun to watch and we had hopes and aspirations and goals. And it almost feels like this loss just slammed the book on that. And now it's back to ground zero. We're starting over. Who knows? Are we going all the way back to scratch and we're going to be starting with a new GM and coach and coaching staff, and just how are they going to take it to the studs, or are we just giving it a facelift? I don't know what their thoughts are, because the problem with taking it to the studs, and Jack Duffin talked about this, is the way they've operated in the salary cap and pushing the money. He said, if you were to get rid of these guys and get rid of AB and these players, the next GM coming in is going to not have a fun time. And especially initially, a lot of this was predicated on keeping, Stefanski and Andrew Berry together, and these guys playing well enough to justify extensions and restructure so you can keep paying out in cash and kicking the can down the road and keeping your window open. If we're closing the door on this window, all of a sudden things just become 1,000 times more difficult.
Yeah, the best way I can describe it, just real quick in simple terms, the way I understand it, what Jack was explaining the salary cap thing, is it's like they push everything to like offsetting years. So they're already managing the salary cap for like 2026 and 2027 right now. Like they're already working that and figuring those things out. So if you bring in a new GM now, all that groundwork that was already laid out for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road with the, these restructures and extensions and things, that work is all gone. And like you said, the new GM's going to come and be like, well, I wasn't part of that. Like, I don't know what they were thinking with this stuff down here. Why is this money here? Why is that, and it's going to get very difficult if we go that route.
It's, I would definitely be on board with firing Paul DePodesta.
Oh, gone. Gone.
I'm not a huge Daryl fan, Daryl Reuter.
Yeah, but some of the stuff he's been posting lately, I'm like lockstep with this dude.
Paul DePodesta's strategies have produced the following on-field results for the Browns. So in 2016, 2017, it was a rebuild at 1-31. 2018 and 2019, 13, 18 and 1. 2020 to 2024, 39, 37, 2 playoff seasons, 1 playoff win. Post rebuild, 52, 55 and 1. His overall record is 53, 86 and 1.
It's trash.
Yes. Another meme I saw said that Moneyball has aged so poorly. The A's are no longer in Oakland. The 2 richest teams just played in the World Series again, and Paul DePodesta was part of the worst trade in NFL history. So Moneyball, I said, still a great movie.
It's a great movie.
Still a great movie. You still got to have Jonah Hill play him, but that might be the easiest guy to fire. And I've been a huge Barry fan, obviously, but what it really, and I always got mad at the people who were like, we never should have got rid of Dorsey. And I was like, Dorsey was just throwing shit at the wall and hoping anything stuck. Like there's no cohesion or anything. But man, the Lions look really fucking good.
They do.
You know, ever since he's gone there and started, he's not their GM, I don't think, but a player personnel advisor, whatever he's doing for them, they look pretty freaking good. They look like the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl. Nobody can touch them. They look like a college team playing against, FCS schools.
They do.
And it's hard for me to admit that I was wrong. I don't know if you guys know that about me.
No, not you, man.
Yeah.
Justin, you know shocked.
But man,
shocked, bro.
Just, watching that go on while we have this going on, it's like salt in the wounds. And I'm still not ready to give up 100% on AB and stuff like that. So maybe I'm scapegoating DePodesta, and maybe you let Andrew Berry just make all the decisions from here on out, and he doesn't need to advise with a guy who came from baseball. We never liked DePodesta at the hire. We're like, this is a baseball guy, and why are we using so much analytics? This isn't baseball. And I'm not afraid of analytics in football. I think some people just are like, analytics, that's why we suck. No, every team is using them a lot. But you use them as a tool, not as a crutch. And sometimes I feel like the Browns use them as a crutch to their decision-making is just, this is what it says. No, sometimes you use it as a tool and then you make good decisions because you have experience and you know football and you see intangibles and you know the guys in your locker room and the build of the man and all that good stuff. I feel like we just use it as a crutch sometimes.
Yeah, I think analytics is great to, kind of get your constraints down and to kind of get like a philosophy in place. But like you said, just because those things are in place doesn't take the football aspect out of it. I mean, one example we talk all the time, like the age guardrail that Andrew Berry and them have, like, drafting guys that are 23 or older, they don't necessarily do it. Well, they broke that guardrail last year and drafted Cedric Tillman, right? And now, I mean, and we liked Cedric Tillman coming out of college. We're like, okay, good football player. Well, now look what he's doing. I mean, he looks like a very good football player.
Yeah. Would you guys trade? So obviously the big one I saw on NFL Live or whatever from Tannenbaum, which he's a moron. No wonder he doesn't run teams anymore.
Nobody watches this crap anymore.
But he said if he was the Lions, he'd give up, 2 first-round picks, or was it 3? 3 first-round draft picks, a second-round pick, and Jahmyr Gibbs for Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
First of all, I do not want to trade Myles Garrett, but if the Lions called me with that offer, I would not be able to say yes fast enough.
I know. I was like, imagine being a Lions fan. He said, what? Like, we would never do
No, Jahmyr Gibbs is important to their team too. Yeah. Like he's a big part of their offense. Like he's the lightning.
You're getting another first-round pick, basically.
Yeah. It'd be like getting 4 first-round draft picks.
Yeah.
So no way that happens. But say somebody calls you with a more realistic offer, a first or 2 firsts or a first and a second and like a pretty high-end player. Are you entertaining it? I don't want to trade him.
I think you have to entertain all options that come your way, just even if it's only for a second. But I mean, I would have to be knocked off my seat hard to trade Myles Garrett. He's just too important. He's too important to the defense. Like, you saw what he did yesterday. We don't give up those 2 blown coverages and everything he did yesterday. We're talking more about that today.
So my only pushback on that is look how well he played yesterday.
And we still lost. I know. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't translate to wins. I talked about that in my episode with Kenny. Like, yes, I don't want to trade him, but man, he might want traded. He'd never say it out loud, but
yeah, true.
If I was him, I'd be fighting Za'Darius for my chance to go up there because we're just wasting him. It's sad to see. I hate it.
Yeah, I know.
But I would say almost everybody is on board. The issue is because of the way we've paid contracts, we're not going to save that much money. We've already paid.
With Myles. Yeah, actually.
With Myles and just a lot of these guys.
Okay, so real quick, I guess I'll just mention that. So with Myles Garrett, the only reason to trade him would be for the draft capital or the player equity, whatever you're getting back, because he's a $19 million dead cap. He's a $20 million cap hit. We'd be saving over a little over $1 million with a $19 million dead. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's the same type of situation with Denzel Ward. That's why I don't think he gets moved. the guys that I listed in here, based on their contracts and the dead cap and all that stuff, that makes sense to. Now, not all of these guys are getting traded, obviously, but you could see maybe Wyatt Teller, $4.5 million saved, not a big dead cap. Conklin, 6.5 or 6.2 million saved, not a big dead cap. And Joku, you could say $5 million. He's not a big dead cap, which does kind of scare me a little bit. Zadarius Smith, minimal cap savings, but they'll just get some capital back from him. I put Jed Wills in here, but nobody's trading for him. Newsome, Thornhill, Elijah Moore, Shelby Harris. Who knows? Maybe even Jameis Winston. If one of these teams that needs some quarterback depth because their starter's banged up or whatever, who knows?
And the issue is a lot of these guys aren't going to get us back a ton of draft capital outside of Miles. I mean, even in Njoku, who I think is a top 3 to 5 tight end in the league, we'd maybe get a third,
maybe
third or a fourth for a tight end. So it's just like the Jed thing. Jed puts the vibe I get out of Jed is once he's not on our team after this year, we're not going to hear from him anymore. He'll be on teams as like a backup, but you're never going to, it's going to be Cam Irving.
Yes.
He's just going to be on a bunch of teams as a backup, and you'll see him. And we'll be watching Monday Night Football one time, and the team starter will go down, and Jed will come in, and we'll be like, oh, holy shit, Jed's in the game, and he'll give up 3 sacks. and we'll be, you know what I mean? Like that's exactly the way I see the rest of his career going.
I agree 100%.
I guess then when we talk about coaching staff, before we wrap this up, how do you guys feel? Like, I didn't want to blow it up. I was talking about if it continued to go off the rails, we might have to blow it up. And then we had last week, and I said, thank God we had this week because I didn't want to get rid of all these guys. And then we have this, and now I think we're staring 2-15, 3-14 at best, most likely. Can you bring a coaching staff back after that?
No,
I mean, he's built up, a good career up until this point, but is it gone so far off the rails that you can't bring him back?
I think if you're a Kevin Stefanski guy, I think best case scenario for this season now is pretty much everybody gets fired around you, and you and Andrew Berry are able to continue doing what you're doing. But it has been so messy and just kind of dysfunctional, and I don't even know the direction of the team week to week. That I think his seat is super hot, and I like Kevin. I mean, we talked about Kevin a lot, but I think his seat, unfortunately, just because of how bad this has been, his seat's definitely got to be hot. I think Andrew Berry, like you look at the Watson trade, that at the end of the year, that might be a factor where they're like, hey, somebody's got to, pay the price for this. But I mean, it is not good, and it's not going to get better.
For me at this point, and we'll see how the rest of the season goes. Maybe I'll feel differently depending on what transpires, but everybody who had a hand in this new offensive coaching staff, redesigning this offense that is nothing but confusion and 32nd in the freaking league and everything, needs to go. Everybody needs to go. I would keep Kevin at this point. And I mean, I'm talking like if there's front office people that were like, hey, you have to hire Tommy Rees, fire that guy. Like
the janitor who said, hey, what about this guy?
Yeah. Everybody's got to go. Let Kevin just do his thing. I would love to know. And maybe this happened, but I would love to know that Kevin hired his own coaching staff, implemented whatever offense he felt most comfortable running, got the quarterback that he knew could execute it.
So I agree, especially to an extent, it's like we saw Kevin have his offense and we all said we need to modernize it. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know what I mean? So is he the guy, I don't know, is he the guy you want if you go get it like a Cam Ward, who's an athlete at the quarterback position who can make plays?
That would be tough.
Is Kevin the guy you want?
Yeah.
I don't know. And we've been huge Kevin Stefanski fans. I still think even if we do move on from him, he'll have a job in 10 minutes. But I don't know what you do. They just got extensions.
I know.
And I don't think we ever got details. I don't think it was ever made public, was it?
Not that I ever saw.
3 or 4 years. I don't think
around.
we ever. If you're Jimmy Haslam, at some point, are you tired of paying money to people who aren't doing things for you?
How many head coaches are we going to pay at the same time?
You know what I mean? Like players in terms of, in guaranteed money, he's got in escrow that he's paying that aren't playing. Coaches, multiple coaches. I mean, at some point, he probably wants to get a little bit of return on his money. So is he going to fire him? Is he going to bring him back? I also fear that just because you move on from him and you have a top pick doesn't mean you're going to get the coach that you want. And I'm not saying you should settle, but it doesn't look good that you have to fire a 2-time coach of the year winner, 1 year removed from winning coach of the year. That doesn't – coaches talk. There's an inner circle. There's front office people that talk to each other. That's not a good look.
No, and you use Ben Johnson all the time as the perfect example. Like, he's not taking that job. Like, the coach
He'll
you
go to
want
Chicago.
who has options is not taking that job.
Yeah.
I'm just terrified as a fan of this organization to do this all over again. If I'm just being honest, you know what I mean? I'm in the back of my head, I'm just thinking, oh God, I really do not want to do this every 2 or 3 years for the next 30 years again. Because I've already got 30 years into this rotation of coaching and GM and quarterback. I really thought that we had some consistency going on. And then now I'm like, Jesus, we might switch up all three. Again.
Yeah, it's one of those things too, is it felt like we were building something sustainable in terms of, like, we had our core and we had our core signed and we had our GM who was operating at a high level in terms of manipulating the cap. And it was like, not only can we be good now, but we're set up to continue to be good, down the future, as long as we're hitting on picks and, doing all the right things. Like, we're going to avoid the rebuild. We're not going to have to bottom out. Yeah. Well, so much for that. I guess we can only be wrong about so much. Don't let the haters hear me say that. But yeah, I feel the same way. It's like, I don't want to watch a rebuild. I mean, I guess there will be that initial excitement, but that's what I talk about. That's the hope. That's the hope that they use to torture you. And like, I don't know who the candidates are. I don't know who you go out and get. I know a lot of people talk about Vrabel. He's been here all year. You think he's going to want to stick around in this? There'll be better jobs available. There might be one available in Columbus if he wants to go there. It's just, I don't know who you go get. And what do you want? Do we want another offensive coordinator who we think is going to be the guy to unlock offense in the new age NFL, like a Ben Johnson? Or do we want to go get a disciplinarian guy like a Vrabel who's going to come in and change your culture? Like, and then do I trust Jimmy Haslam, and if he's still around, DePodesta, to make that decision? I don't freaking know. I thought we were turning the corner. Now I don't know.
And one thing, I just real quick before we wrap it up, like, just food for thought, everybody. I know we always talk about, well, if we lose out or whatever, we get that top 5 pick, we throw Shador and Cam Ward and, some of these guys out there, but this is not a deep quarterback class. Not like it was last year. I mean, at least at this point.
There's like 2.
Yeah, there's like 2 guys. And right now, the Browns at 2-7 are picking 5th. If the season ended today, I mean, it's the Patriots, then the Jags. Neither of them are taking a quarterback, but they'll probably trade it if somebody wants to come up and give them a haul.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then it's the Saints, need a quarterback. Panthers, need a quarterback. And then us. But then there's the Raiders right behind us at 2. Everybody's 2-7. They need a quarterback. Giants, 2-7, need a quarterback. The Titans, 2-6, need a quarterback. It's just, I feel like it's going to be a fight. There's so many teams that just suck right now, and they all need quarterbacks.
We got it like a minute or two. One thing I've been kind of throwing out in the Discord, if Stefanski's back, would you sign Derek Carr as a bridge quarterback, especially say you can't get one of a Shador Cam Ward next year? Because obviously Derek Carr is not playing at a super high level since he's been in New Orleans. Nobody has. I think Derek Carr can play good quarterback. I'm not saying he's as good as he was maybe in year 2 or 3.
You've always been a Derek Carr guy.
Yes, but he's played for dumpster fire after dumpster fire, especially the guy's never had an offensive coach.
Yeah, it's true.
He's never outside of Josh McDaniels, which I am not convinced is an offensive coach. or even a coach. He's never played for an offensive coach. So I don't know. I watch Derek Carr and think, man, if he's in Stefanski's play action passing offense, I think he could perform well. I'm not saying he's the quarterback of the future. He's obviously but if you had to, even if we draft Cam Ward or Shador, do you really want to throw him to the fire in the first year? We just talked about in our preview episode about how the NFL has a QB development problem. They're just bringing in these guys who are playing 7-on-7 essentially their entire careers and then throwing them to the wolves. And then after 8 games, 12 games, 1 year, getting benched, and then their careers are over, and you wait and you just extended your rebuild for another 2 years. Maybe we go the way of the Packers. Maybe you sign a guy like Carr, you draft Cam Ward or Shedeur, and maybe they don't play for you for 2 years and let them learn. And then we get him in there and we actually do it the right way instead of, I feel like the Browns are like the DCEU compared to Marvel. They spent 10 years building up the Infinity Saga and then DC was just like, fuck it, we're making the Justice League. And then they wondered why it sucked, So I feel like that's the comparison. I know a lot of people are saying, some people don't like Derek Carr, but if you go look, he's played good football at times and he's never got to play for an offensive coach, like ever. The closest thing is probably John Gruden.
I without pulling it up, and we can do it on a future episode. I don't know who the free agent quarterbacks that are going to be available next year are yet, but we're going to need a bridge. We're going to need a bridge. Like you said, even if we draft a young guy early.
And Derek Carr's a good locker room guy.
Yeah, and he's a competitor.
He's like leads the leagues in fourth quarter comebacks.
Yeah, Derek Carr is definitely not like an elite quarterback by any stretch or, whatever, but I think he's a good quarterback.
If Stefanski can get the play he got out of 40-year-old Joe Flacco last year, he can get solid QB play for a season out of Derek Carr.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's the way I look at that. So that's just a name that I've been kind of keeping in my back pocket because the Saints are going to be moving on. They're going to be getting rid of everybody.
I will say, Trey in the chat, dude, that has been my thing here recently. He says, don't lose out. It builds bad character, losing habits. Win as much as we can. We land where we land on the board. Remember, Brock Purdy was a 7th-round pick. Not just a 7th-round pick, but Mr. freaking irrelevant.
Yeah, but they had a lot around him. And whoever we bring in isn't going to have that much around him. Yeah. Brock Purdy came into CMC, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Kyle Shanahan, Trent Williams.
Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
The defense.
Yes. So
Red Warner.
But yeah, so just some names, and it sucks that we're at the halfway point of the year and we're talking about who we want to hire as coach if we get rid of our coach and what quarterback we want to sign as a bridge, and freaking sucks.
That's where we are.
That's the life of the Cleveland Browns fan. So here we are.
Therapy session concluded. Thank you everybody for. Yes. We didn't know. We were hoping we weren't gonna have to do any more hardcore therapy sessions like this, and immediately first week after the win, right back at it.
But. All right, well, we'll wrap this thing up. We appreciate you guys being here, hanging out with us for yet another therapy session. But we'll be here all year, unfortunately. So don't.
Fortunately for us.
Yes, don't leave us. Hey, honestly, this is the biggest reason we started the podcast, because we'd never been good before, and we just like to sit around and bitch about the Browns, and we need somebody to do it with, and now we get to do it with us in front of cameras and all of you guys. So we appreciate you guys being here, hanging out with us through this awful season. We'll get through it together. We'll get to our Super Bowl in March and April, aka the draft. It'll be exciting. We might have to skip the Mad Dog Awards this year because I don't know if anyone's going to qualify for any. So
we just do like parody awards.
Yeah. So maybe we'll give away some Razzies. We'll have to come up with the Browns version of the Razzies.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't like to do that. They're still human, but I'm just being funny. But man, it freaking sucks. But again, we appreciate you guys being here. Be on the lookout for our preview episode later in the week. Hopefully Kenny Mack and I can link up to do another episode.
There's no preview episode this week.
Oh yeah, it's a bye. So actually, hopefully we're going to get together with
Blake's just in that zone, man, in the routine.
I'm just trying to get through the season.
No, the bearded Browns.
Yeah, we're hopefully we got to meet the guys from the Bearded Browns podcast. If anybody has a chance to go check them out, super nice guys. So we're hoping to maybe link up with them in the bye week and do an episode. So we'll get their input on what they think the Browns should do for the rest of the year. So be on the lookout for that sometime next week. And hopefully me and Kenny will put together an episode for you guys too. So again, we appreciate you guys being here, and go Cavs.